Namaskar. After our discussions on Bhasa Swapna Asadattam and Kalidasa's Abhigyan Shakuntalam, today we will be discussing the Mrichchakatikam, supposed to have been authored by Shudraka. Before I proceed, I would like to take up a small question which was raised during the first day. Somebody asked whether it is bhaso hasa or bhaso ahasa in the eulogy of Sanskrit poets by Mahakavi Jayadev. So this is a beautiful verse, Yasyash Choras Chikura Nikura Karnapuro Mayuro, by great poet, a great Nayayika, a great philosopher, and a great dramatist, author of Prasanna Raghav, and a great rhetorician also, and a poet also. He has authored this Prashasti. So he says Bhasa is the smile of Kavita Kamini. So there is no question of calling Bhasa as ahasa. He is not ahasa but hasa. But I may add here that there is actually a play, modern play, written by G.V. Palsule, who has connection with our institute, who is organizing this workshop, and he has really authored a play titled Bhaso Ahasa. So he has put an avagrah between Bhaso and Hasa. So by Sandhi Vichhed it becomes Bhasa Ahasa. So Bhasa is not the Hasa. This is the title of the play, and the play is a very serious type of play. Even though Bhasa is very well known for his humor, for his hasya rasa, and very enchanting, engaging situations of laughter and humor in his plays, but Palsule places him in a conflict with his state, and a poet's creativity coming into conflict with the regime, with the Puritans, because Bhasa has experimented in his plays, and those experimentations, those innovations are not agreeable to the state, to the Pandits of the court. Therefore, Bhasa is tortured, and in this way the play goes on, a modern play in Sanskrit, and a serious kind of play. So it has nothing to do with the citation of Jayadeva. Bhasa is described there as the smile of the damsel or lady of poetry, poetic muse, and it is by Jayadeva around 12th century. Coming to the next play for this workshop, Mrichchakatikam, I may add here again that the history of Sanskrit theatre starts right from Vedic age, and the earliest available plays in Sanskrit, of course, are in classical Sanskrit. They are the plays by Bhasa. Before that, we have some specimen of dramatic pieces in Vedic language, like Suparna Adhyay, and some other pieces also. But Bhasa is the first known author whose writings are available to us in a large number as well. And between Bhasa and Kalidasa, there must have been some dramatists, some playwrights, but their writings are not available to us, like Subandhu, whom I have referred after Bhasa. Subandhu was a great author, and he has really written a marvelous play, Vasavadatta Natya Para or Vasavadatta Natya Dhara. The reading is also not confirmed. It is from Abhinav Bharati. Abhinav Gupta cites the name. And that play was really a very important piece in the Sanskrit dramatic literature that has been lost. It was authored in 3rd century BC. Subandhu is a historical figure. He was in the court of King Bindusar. And after Subandhu, there must have been some other writers, and then Kalidasa comes as a bright star in the literary firmament of Sanskrit. After Kalidasa, And between Kalidasa and Mrichchakatika, there are some other playwrights. Unfortunately, their plays are also not available to us, like Ashwaghosa's plays. So Ashwaghosa is a great poet. He has authored two epics in Sanskrit, Saundarnand and Buddhacharit, and he had written two plays, two very important dramas of Prakarana variety. So this is important to know, because today I am taking up a Prakarana type of Rupak. Mrichchakatika is a Prakarana. It is not a Nataka. And in my first lecture, I have discussed these 10 types of Rupakas or dramas, the varieties of drama. So Ashwaghosa had authored two Prakaranas. One is Rashtrapal Prakarana and another one Shariputra Prakarana. They were based on the Jataka stories, and because Ashwaghosa was initiated in Buddhism, he was a follower of Lord Buddha, and his epics also describe the life and message of Buddha. Similarly, these two plays are based on Buddhist stories, related to the life and message of Buddha. But these two plays, some fragments of them are available from Gilgit manuscripts, but we can't make out the full theme and story. Some rough idea we get about these two plays, so I will not discuss them, but they are important plays in the history of Sanskrit drama. Another playwright which comes after Bhasa and Kalidasa is Chandraka. He has been referred to by Kallana in his Raj Tarangini, and Abhinav Gupta in his Abhinav Bharati commentary on the Natya Shastra also refers to Chandraka. And Chandraka's plays were very popular. Chandraka belongs to Kashmir, and his plays were repeatedly performed in Kashmir. Kashmir had a very rich tradition of theatre, and Abhinav Gupta could write an excellent commentary like Abhinav Bharati because he had seen so many plays performed. He had a first-hand knowledge of Sanskrit theatre. So therefore, his commentary is authentic in respect of the account of performances also. So he also refers to Chandraka's plays, and they were very popular plays. But all the plays of Chandraka are also lost. They are not available. So after Bhasa and Kalidasa, another very great author who comes into the picture is Shudraka, and his Mrichchakatikam is the play we are going to discuss. We will start with the Nandi verse of Mrichchakatika. So we go to slide number 1. पर्यंक ग्रंथि बंध द्विगुणित भुजगाश्लेष संवीत जानोरंतर अंत प्राणावरोध विपरत सकल ज्ञान रुद्धेन्द्रियस्य आत्मन्यात्मानमेव व्यपगत कर्णं पश्यतस्तत्वदृष्ट्या शंभोर्वपातु शून्ये क्षण घटित लय ब्रह्मलग्न समाधि. It is Sraddhara meter. It is very appropriate for eulogies, and authors like Kalidasa, they have also written their Nandi in Sraddhara. The Nandi verse that we noticed yesterday, the Nandi verse of Abhigyan Shakuntalam, Ya Srishti Srishturadhya, that is also in Sraddhara meter. So Sraddhara is a very mellifluous meter, and its rhythmic beauty is suited to the expression of devotion and eulogy, stuti. Therefore, many stotra kavyas are also written in Sraddhara meter. So this is a eulogy or prashasti or a good wish for the audience also. And the author says that Shambho Shunye Kshana Ghatita Laya Brahma Lagna Samadhi Vah Patu. May that Samadhi of Shambhu, Lord Shiva, protect you. So what sort of Shiva is there? His pen picture is given. So Paryanka Granthi bandha digunit bhujga shlesh samvit jano. His bended knees, the knotted girdle holds, his bended knees are holding the knotted girdle, and fastened by the doublings of the serpents. Bhujgashlesh samvita jano. Then his sense organs are perfectly pacified as he has controlled his breath. Antha pranavarodha vyapurata sakala jnana ruddhendriyasya. So his sense organs are perfectly in his control, and he is practicing the breath control pranayama also, and his consciousness is dissolved in void. Atmanyevatmanameva vyapagata karanam pashyatas tattva drashtya. Within himself, he sees the Parabrahman, knowing fully well the vacuity of the world. Like that, may that Samadhi, which is concentrated on the ultimate, on Brahma, protect you. So this is the first Nandi. Shudraka has authored. If at all Shudraka has authored this play, then the author of this play has given two Nandis. Sometimes the playwrights give two Nandis, suiting to the occasion. Maybe because the play is for performance, so for different troops, for different repertoire, they write different Nandis. And sometimes Bharatvakyas also, the last verse is called Bharatvakya in the Sanskrit play. It is again a good wish for the audience and for the performers and for the playwright himself. Like the Bharatvakya of Shakuntal, Pravartatam Prakriti Hitaya Parthiva, that we have noticed yesterday. So sometimes more than one Bharatvakya and more than Nandi we find in the Sanskrit playwriting. So another Nandi is there. We go to slide 2. Patuvo Neelakanthasya Kantha Shyamam Budo Upama Gauri Bhujalata Yatra Vidyullekhe Varajate. Again it is a reference to Neelakantha, Shiva. May Shiva's neck, like the dark cloud. Shyamam Budo Upama. It is simile or upma. So his neck, his throat is of dark color. So it resembles the dark clouds of rainy season. So it shows his anukampa, his grace, because the dark clouds of rainy season will shower rains. Like that he showers his grace. So Neelkanthasya Kantha Shyamam Budopama Kantha Vah Patu. May that Shyamam Budopama Kantha of Neelkantha, Shiva, protect you. And there is a beautiful description for that Shiva. Gauri Bhujalata Yatra Vidyullekhe Varajate. Embraced by the bright arm of Gauri Bhujalata, which is like light, which is like lightning flash, like Vidyullata. So to suggest the brightness of Gauri's arm, he gives this simile, Vidyullekha Iva. So because Shiva's throat is compared to dark cloud, and the dark cloud is embraced by Vidyullata, the flash of lightning. So the throat of Lord Shiva is embraced by Gauri's bright arm. So it's a beautiful simile. So, so may that Shyamambudopama Kantha of Neelkantha protect you, shield you from every harm. So there are certain subtle hints about the theme. Ultimately, the play culminates into Shanta, into the feeling of Shanta. Everything is perfectly settled. So the playwright describes the Samadhi of Shiva, and may that Samadhi protect you. This is his wish in the Nandi. And Shunya Kshana Ghatitalaya Brahma Lagna Samadhi. His meditation is described as he is concentrated in Shunya. So somewhat he is hinting upon the Buddhist philosophy and Buddhist way of meditation also. Maybe it is my conjecture, because Shudraka, or the author of this play, is a little inclined towards Buddhism. That we will see. Otherwise, he is a perfect Vedic scholar. That also we will see. And he belongs to the line of devotees who worship these deities like Shiva, etc. Now, okay, so like Bhasa, Shudraka is also a riddle of Sanskrit literature, of the history of Sanskrit literature. He is an unsolved mystery in our dramatic literature. That there was a king named Shudraka, about that we don't have any doubt, because so many references of a king Shudraka are there in Sanskrit literature. So he was a legendary king like Vikramaditya. So modern historians did not believe that there was a king called Vikramaditya in 1st century BC who really defeated the Shakas and assumed the title of Shakari. But now there are proofs to prove, there are seals and inscriptions and other evidences that there was really a Vikramaditya. So maybe the modern historians also later on confirm that there was a king Shudraka. But Puranas describe a king Shudraka. In the Puranic Vanshavali genealogy, a king Shudraka is described. His period is not, of course, definitely settled. But Shudraka was a king. Where did he rule? That is also a debatable issue. But he has been referred to several times by several authors also. Like Bhasa is referred by Kalidasa and Banbhatta and Bhama and Dandi and Vamana. In the same way, Shudraka not only is referred by several authors, there were several biographies of Shudraka, not only one or two. Several literary pieces related to Shudraka and his life were written. He was such a famous, well-known king. And like Vikramaditya also, there is a circle of stories about Vikramaditya. But Shudraka is not a subject of folk tales. His life is well known. And historical incidences are described. His battle, his war with some king. So in the play related to Shudraka or in his biography, such incidents are supposed to have been described. We have slight references to these writings. None of these writings are available. But there was a plethora of writings on Shudraka describing his life and his deeds. So some references I will take up. There was a Shudraka authored by Ramil and Somil. You see, Kalidasa is referred to one Somil. So perhaps he is the same Somil who has also written a Shudraka Katha. And Ramil is his co-author of this Shudraka Katha. Both of them have authored a text called Shudraka Katha in Sanskrit, a biography maybe. And Rajshekhara says this. Rajshekhara in 10th century, he has written so many eulogies, Kavi Prashastis. Almost 37 stanzas by Rajshekhara are cited by Jallana in Sukti Muktavali, a 13th century anthology. And with these 37 stanzas, you can make up a mini history of Sanskrit literature. So it is not true that no history of Sanskrit literature was written before the Britishers came and they told us how to write a history of Sanskrit literature. We had our own idea of our history, and the authors like Rajshekhara and others, they have given an idea of our history of Sanskrit poetry and Sanskrit literature. So they start from Panini, who is not supposed to be a poet by the modern authors, but Panini is remembered as a Mahakavi in this tradition. Then Bhasa and Kalidasa and all other authors are remembered, they are eulogized. So by these Kavi Prashastis, you can create a sort of mini history of Sanskrit literature. So there, Rajshekhara refers to Ramil and Somila as authors of, a joint author of Shudraka Katha. And he gives a very beautiful upama for this Ramil and Somil. Kavyam yayor doyor asi dardhanari shwaropamam. The Kavya Shudraka Katha authored by them was like Ardhanarishwara. In Ardhanarishwara, two forms are combined. Shiva and Shakti, Shiva and Parvati both are combined. So the form given by Ramil and form given by Somila, they are combined. So that Shudrak Katha becomes like Ardhanarishwara, because there is some difference in the style, in the diction of Ramil, between Ramil and Somil, but they have fused together. So it has become a Kavya like Ardhanarishwara. Then we have reference that an author named Panchashikha had written another Shudrak Katha in Prakrit language. And Bhoja in his Shrangar Prakash refers to this Prakrit Shudrak Katha. And he also cites, he also gives some citations from such works. He then cites, he then gives some citation from Vikrant Shudrak, a play, which is also not available. So all these works, Shudrak Katha by Ramil Somil, Shudrak Katha by Panchashik, and Vikrant Shudrak, a play by anonymous author, and Bhoja informs that Shudraka is the hero of this play. So all these writings have been lost. But Shudraka is a celebrated personality, and he as a king and as an author. Banbhatta also refers to Shudraka, and Banbhatta knows some historical incidents related to Shudraka. So these works are available to Bana. These historical works describing the biography of Shudraka, they were known to Bana. So he refers to some historical incidents in his Harshcharita. Utsaraka ruchim cha rahasi sasachiv meo duri chakar chakoranatham Shudraka dutash chandraketum jivitat. So there is a reference to Shudrak Duta and his killing Chandraketu, etc. Then Shudraka is referred to in Katha Sarissagar, in Brahat Katha Manjari, in Avanti Sundari Katha, again a Katha like Kadambari by Dandi. Shudraka is referred, and Dandi says that Shudraka is actually the Aryaka of Mrichchakatika. This is very interesting. Aryaka is a hero of Mrichchakatika, another hero you can say. Charudatta is of course the hero of Mrichchakatika, but it is such a play that several prominent characters emerge, and they, in themselves they are like heroes, great warriors, great heroes. A galaxy of them in Mrichchakatika is there. So Aryaka, who ultimately becomes the king of Ujjaini in the story of Mrichchakatika. So Dandi says that Shudraka in his Mrichchakatika has written his own life by projecting Aryaka. Then he says that Shudraka had a colleague named Bandhudatta. So that Bandhudatta has become Charudatta here. This is what Dandi says. So these authors hint upon some sort of correlation between the story of Mrichchakatika and the life of Shudraka. So Shudraka in Mrichchakatikam, he has given a glimpse of his own life and his struggle and his regaining the kingdom. Some sort of correlation of his personal life is there in Mrichchakatikam, as Dandi knows it. And Dandi is an authentic author, so he must be having some tradition. Then several modern researchers have worked on the problem of Shudraka. There is no time to discuss all of them. Chandrabali Pandey, he is a scholar and traditional Pandit from Kashi. He has written a big volume on Shudraka, and it's a good research work also. So on the basis of his study of some inscriptions, he says that Vasishti Putra Pulumavi was a king, and he actually is Shudraka. And he says that Bhasa and Vatsyayana, the author of Kam Sutra, they were contemporary to this Shudraka, who is actually Vasishti Putra Pulumavi in history. And he also says that there is a Bhana, we will discuss it. There is a Bhana titled Padma Pravratakam, and the same Vasishti Putra Pulumavi and the same Shudraka, both of them are identical. So he has also authored Padma Pravrataka Bhana also. But now nobody believes that Shudraka is the author of that Bhana. We will discuss that Bhana in the lecture on Chaturbhani. Stenkano, who is a well-known scholar, he has written on Sanskrit drama. So he says that Abhir king Shivdatta, who flourished around 250 AD, he is identical with the author of Mrichchakatika, Shudraka. And Pischal has also worked on the problem. Pischal, a well-known German scholar, he says that Dandi actually had authored Mrichchakatika, but this is rubbish, we can say. Dandi himself refers to Shudraka, and the authorship of Mrichchakatika also he refers. So because Pischal is not aware to Avanti Sundari Katha, a very important work, Katha work by Dandin, that was discovered when these Pischal and Reno and even Keith, they had gone out of scene. So many new works in Sanskrit were discovered, new manuscripts were found, and these earlier authors on Sanskrit literature, they are not aware of them. So this is wrong to say that Dandi could have authored the play Mrichchakatikam. Then Keith says that Shudraka is a fictitious name. No such person as Shudraka existed. So it is just ascribed to some legendary king, because those who authored it, the person who authored it didn't want to give his name, his real name, and Shudraka is a well-known king, so he gave his name. Kantanath Shastri Telang also opines that Shudraka is not actually the author of Mrichchakatika. Vasudeva Vishnu Mirashi, he says that Gautami Putra Satkarni, who ruled in Pratishthan in modern Aurangabad or Patan, he is actually Shudraka. And Pulumavi is his son. And he ruled for 28 years. And his son was Shivshri Puloma. And the daughter of Mahakshatrapa Rudradaman was married to Vasishti Putra Satkarni. So he connects Shudraka to this dynasty, Gautami Putra Satkarni and Pulumavi and Shivshri Puloma. This is his idea of Shudraka, but nothing is certain, and there is no conclusive evidence to prove the identity of Shudraka. But a king named Shudraka was there. Maybe that Shudraka is just a title. He came from the lower Varna, like Chandragupta Maurya. So he's supposed to be the son of a Dasi. So in the same way, Shudraka name is there because he is not a Dvija. That is what I conjecture. And beyond that, we are not in possession of any definite fact to ascertain the identity of Shudraka. Another very controversial problem about Mrichchakatik and Shudraka is its relationship with Daridra Charudattam, a play of Bhasa, which we have referred to in the first lecture. So the plot, the dialogues, the whole arrangement of a story of Daridra Charudattam is very much in line with Mrichchakatika. Only the available text of Daridra Charudattam has 4 acts and Mrichchakatikam has 10 acts. Otherwise, the 4 acts of Daridra Charudattam are summarized an easy-fight version of the 4 acts of Mrichchakatikam. Some names have been changed. The name Samvahaka has been changed. Some small changes have been done, and language is a little simplified, and some portions have been abridged. Otherwise, it is the same play. There is no difference. There is no essential difference. So who is actually the author of Mrichchakatikam? Bhasa or Shudraka? That is another problem. So there are various views about it. Some scholars say that Bhasa and Shudraka, they are identical, and Bhasa or Shudraka wrote 2 scripts of the same play. One is simplified and abridged version, and one is the full-length play Mrichchakatikam. So for stage purposes, he created these 2 versions of his own play. Another view is that Bhasa and Shudraka are different persons, and Daridra Charudattam is the original play, and Mrichchakatikam is an enlarged and more complicated version of Daridra Charudattam. It is a development of Daridra Charudattam. And Daridra Charudattam had simply the love story between Charudatta and Vasantsana. There are no political events happening there. There is no reference to any political activity. And Mrichchakatikam is full of political intrigue, political tussle, a kind of revolution happening in the play. And that is a very strong theme running side by side with the love story of Charudatta and Vasantsana in Mrichchakatikam. So Daridra Charudattam has no traces of that political canvas. This is the difference between the two, and some scholars opine that authors of both of these plays are different, and Mrichchakatikam is a later play based on Daridra Charudattam. Another view is just the opposite of it, that Mrichchakatikam is the original play and Daridra Charudattam is the easy and simplified version, abridged version of Mrichchakatikam prepared by the Chakyars of Kerala. The Chakyars of Kerala, who have been doing Sanskrit theatre for about a millennium, ever since Kulshekhar Varman reorganized the theatre in 9th century. So for the past 1000 years, they are doing Kudiyattam theatre and performing Sanskrit plays in a very developed style called Kudiyattam. So they prepared this Daridra Charudattam as a stage script based on Mrichchakatikam, because they do not perform Mrichchakatikam. So they edited it and created this version. This is another view. These are the controversial views. But those scholars who have studied the problem, they have not noticed one thing, on the basis of which again the whole scenario changes. So it is not right to suppose that Daridra Charudattam had only 4 acts. The available text of the play has only 4 acts, but the play in fact had perhaps 10 acts like Mrichchakatikam. So it was a full-length play and full-length prakarana like Mrichchakatikam, because Bhoja cites Daridra Charudattam and he cites a verse from Daridra Charudattam which fits in the scheme of Mrichchakatikam in 8th act. So Daridra Charudattam had this verse in its 8th act. So it had more than 4 acts, and maybe it was having 10 acts like Mrichchakatikam. And again, Sagar Nandi in his Natak Lakshan Ratnakosh cites a dialogue from Daridra Charudattam, so which is not available in the 4-act text of Daridra Charudattam, and perhaps belongs to the later acts which are not available. So on the basis of these references, I have come to the conclusion that neither Daridra Charudattam nor Mrichchakatikam is the original play. There must have been a proto play, an original play, and it developed into a strong tradition of theatre, that is Shudraka's theatre. So maybe Shudraka wrote a play, and it created such a great tradition of performance. It became very popular that many scripts based on it were prepared. So both these scripts, Daridra Charudattam in 4 acts and Daridra Charudattam maybe in 10 acts and Mrichchakatikam in 10 acts, are based on the original play which was authored by Shudraka, a legendary figure in Sanskrit drama. So because in Mrichchakatikam, Shudraka is remembered as a legendary figure who flourished in past. So he is not referred as a contemporary author in the Prastavnas in Sanskrit play. The words of Prastavna are put by the author into the mouth of Sutradhara, and Sutradhara refers to the playwright as a contemporary figure who has given the script to them for performance. But here, Mrichchakatikam is unique in this way that Sutradhara describes the author of Mrichchakatik, Shudraka, who has died long back. So he describes Shudraka as a person who used to rule as a king sometimes, and his life also he gives us some clues, and ultimately he died by burning himself in the fire. He lived for 100 years. He was a great scholar of Rigved, Samved, Yajurved, Atharved, and celebrated poet. And all these qualities of him he describes in Prastavana, and then says that he gave up his life after 100 years by ascending the burning fire. So this is very unusual in Sanskrit drama. So many things are unusual about this play, and it's a very interesting play as well. So coming to the genre of Mrichchakatika, it is a prakarana of Sankirna type. Prakarana is said to be of two types in Natya Shastra, Shuddha and Sankirna. So the Shuddha prakarana doesn't have Ganika, a courtesan, as one of the heroines, and Sankirna prakarana has Ganika as one of the heroines. And because of her presence, it becomes Sankirna. So the hero has a wife already, and he loves a Ganika also. This may be the theme. And other characteristics, of course, Mrichchakatika confirms that a minister or a Brahmin or a prince or a hero from middle class society is the main character in Prakarana. So in Mrichchakatikam we see that a Brahmin, he is a Naishthika Brahmana, very devoted to religious rites, but he is a merchant, he is a trader, Sarthva. So this also is the characteristic of Prakarana, that a merchant, Vanik, can be the hero of a Prakarana. A Brahmin can be the hero, not a Kshatriya, not a Dhirodatta Kshatriya of noble family, but a person from middle class society, maybe it's a hero. So Charudatta, a Brahman, and by profession a trader, is the hero. And the love story, the story of his love with a courtesan, Vasantsana, is the Adhikarika Vrattanta, or main plot. And overthrowing the king of Ujjaini, Palak. Palak is the name of the king who has unleashed a reign of terror. He is not liked by the subjects, and he is to be replaced by the people. People do not want him. So there is an attempt to replace him, to overthrow his rulership, and the whole episode of struggle against this king and the whole political intrigue. This is a subplot, Prasangik Vratta or Angabhut Vratta in Mrichchakatika. So with this little introduction, we come to the first act. It is one of the most wonderful plays in Sanskrit literature, and it is unique in many respects. What we have in Mrichchakatika, we don't have anywhere else in Sanskrit drama. Many things unique we have in Mrichchakatika. So the first act opens at the time of dusk, and after the Prastavana itself is very interesting. So there is no time to cover the Prastavana. The dialogue between Surtadhara and Nati, and Surtadhara inquires what is there for food, and Nati says that I am searching for a Brahman. I want to invite a Brahman for food, and preparations are going on in my house. Her house is described, what preparations are going on. It's a very graphic picture of Surtadhara's house. This is also unusual in Sanskrit drama, that the Surtadhara takes us to his house, and what Nati is doing there as a household lady, she is preparing various types of foods to be given as a feast to the Brahmin, and she searches for a Brahman, and Surtadhara is calling a Brahman, and immediately a Brahman, as a character of Mrichchakatika, Vidushaka is a Brahman there. So he hears that some Brahman is being called for a feast, for a bhoj. So he replies and he stages his entry. So in this interesting way, the character of Mrichchakatika makes his entry through the Prastavana. And then Charudatta enters, he asks his friend Vidushaka, his name is Maitreya. This again is a little bit unusual name in the nomenclatures of Sanskrit drama. Normally Madhavya and all other names are there. So Maitreya is a name related to Buddhism also. I don't want to go further into this speculation, but his name is Maitreya. And Charudatta, he said that it is evening time, and it is time us to offer our evening worship. So I will be doing my puja, my samadhi, he says, and you take this bali. So bali doesn't mean slaughter of animals here. Bali is puja, and some samagri is there in a pot. He hands it over to Vidushaka, and he said that you go on this square and offer this bali to the gods there. So this is his routine. We find that he is a person devoted to rituals, rites prescribed for the Brahmins, and by profession, of course, he is a trader. But I don't think he is very serious about his business, and he might be neglecting it, and he's running in loss, and he is a great benevolent person. He's like Danveer Karna. So he's giving away his property to those who come as yachakas to him. So everybody in the city is all praised for Charudatta. Charudatta is revered in Ujjaini. So this play has its locale in Ujjaini, and very living picture of Ujjaini, the city of Ujjain it gives. The streets of Ujjaini, the palace, the garden. So this plot revolves around the locales of Ujjaini. So Vidushaka is asked by Charudatta to go to the square and offer the worship. Vidushaka is hesitant, and we find this atmosphere of the city in this conversation. Vidushaka says that these are not good days, and one should not go after evening. So it is already now dark. It is dark already. So I don't want to go. So Charudatta says that no, you have to go because worship has to be offered. You take Radanika with you, a dasi. Now very interesting that a man is afraid, and Charudatta says that you take this dasi with you. She will protect you, because women in Mrichchakatikam, they are very courageous. Valiant ladies are here. Even Vasantsana is a valiant lady. So these are the characters in Mrichchakatikam. And Radanika, although she is a dasi, but she is almost a family member in Charudatta's house. She has so much affection for Charudatta, and she lives like as if in a family. We will come to it. The dasa pratha is there, the custom of slavery is there, but all the dasas are treated as like they are family members. Like Manu says that a householder should see that his servants have been fed properly. After that only he should take food. So all the dasas are properly taken care of. Once they are once they have been purchased as dasas, then they become family members. They do all these sorts of work assigned to them, but they live like a family. So this Radanika lives with Charudatta. Other dasas are also there. They are also referred to. Somebody is there in the gate, because Charudatta has a big mansion, a big house, and to look after that he has servants and dasas, slaves also. So Radanika is asked to accompany Vidushaka, who is fearing to go out in the dark, and she carries a deepak with him, and they both go out. This is one section of the scene which is projected on the stage. Then another corner, another scene opens. This is very interesting theatre in Mrichchakatikam. And according to Natya Shastra, they may be using the Mattavarnis for showing two different locales. So Charudatta's house is there on one corner. From that house, from the Pakshadwara, Vidushaka, from the gate, Vidushaka with Radanika has come out, and it is a bit dark on the stage. So I will later on come to it. All the theatrical devices of Mrichchakatika. The whole play moves almost in dim light, in darkness. A little light is there, and then again darkness. Some light and darkness. So this duality of darkness and light goes on right from the beginning till end in the Mrichchakatika, and it creates it's an amazing theatrical effect, because the play has to be created almost in darkness, not in light. So how to perform in half light and half darkness, this sort of theater Shudraka has designed for Mrichchakatika. So this is evening dusk time and they are going for evening worship. So next corner, Shakara, who is a villain here, and is chasing Vasantsana, the courtesan. We don't know why Vasantsana has come out. You see, Vidushaka is afraid to move out in the dark in the evening, and Vasantsana, a very young lady and beautiful lady, she is roaming alone on the streets of Ujjaini. Maybe she had some purpose to go out. Maybe she was searching for the house of Charudatta. She didn't know where Charudatta lives, but she loves him. She has seen him in some festival and she has heard about him. So maybe she is roaming in the streets and searching where my beloved Charudatta lives. Some conjecture you can have about it, but she is walking on the street and the villain Shakara sees her, then starts chasing her. Then Vasantsana runs to save herself. This scene goes on. It's a long scene. Shakara speaks many foolish things. He calls her to stop. And a Vit is a good character here. I will come to the character of Vita when we discuss Chaturbhani. Vita is a very noble type of character also. Otherwise, he is a broker for the prostitutes and Ganikas. But he is like a Dada of the locality. He is very brave person also. Otherwise, he is a mediator. He works as an agent also. So as an agent for the Ganikas, he accompanies the Shakara, because Shakar is a big city officer. He is like a police officer, and his sister is a kept, is a Rakshita of the king of Ujjain. So he is the ruler of the city. His reign is there in the city, and he is a very oppressive person, a real villain. So this theater is there that he is chasing Vasantsana. Vasantsana is running to save herself, and she sees the big mansion of Charudatta, and from the back door she makes an entry inside the house. At this juncture, Vidushaka and Radanika come out on the street, and there is some darkness on the street. So Shakara thinks that this lady, who is actually Radanika, is Vasantsana, whom he has been chasing. So he grips her, and that Radanika shouts that somebody has caught hold of me. He is a goon. Then Vidushaka, holding his dandakashta, his wooden stick, tries to frighten Shakara. So now Vidushaka has become a warrior, a hero in himself. So he says that in his own house, even a dog becomes brave. And this is my house. You have come up to the gate of my house, and you are doing this unbecoming thing with the maid of my house. So Shakara is a bit frightened and he retires. But he retires after threatening Vidushaka that the lady, the Ganika, Vasantsana, whom I have been chasing, perhaps she has entered this house, and send her to me. Otherwise, it will not be good for your health. So with this remark, he retires. The act ends here. In second act, we have the conversation between Madanika and Vasantsana. Madanika is again the Dasi, but she is like a friend to Vasantsana. Vasantsana is a lady of very good temperament, and she has very sweet nature, and they are having a jolly talk together. Meanwhile, it's a very good conversation. There is no time to cover. And meanwhile, they are talking inside the house, maybe in the balcony, and they are seen on one corner of the stage. On another corner, the street scene opens. that some gamblers are chasing one gambler who has lost his stake. So to recover their money, their claim, they are chasing him. So it's a big canvas you need for big local you need for the stage of Mrichchakatika. So they are running after Samvahak, the person who has lost the game. 10 gold coins he has to repay them. So very powerful scene is this, and how they are running after. When we perform it, it becomes a very powerful scene, just captivating scene. It just enchants us. What actions you can take, running and chasing. So he enters a temple suddenly, a deserted temple, and in the place of idol, he stands in a fridge. This Samvahaka who is being chased, and Mathuraka, the person who is chasing him, enters this temple, but in semi-darkness, in very dim light, he thinks that it is an idol, it is Devamurti. So he says that person whom we are searching came this side, but he is nowhere. This is the idol, this is the Pratima. So let us wait for him. Perhaps he will come and let us play our game. So they start playing the game. This Samvahaka, who has lost the game, he is so engrossed with, he is so fond of gambling that when they are playing the game and he is standing as a statue, and they are saying, now it is my turn. So suddenly he blurts out, it is my turn. The person is standing as a statue. So they again catch him, get hold of him. So he is being mercilessly beaten. At that time, Darduraka, another character, he comes. He is a wonderful character, a galaxy of wonderful characters from lower class, from the unprivileged class. Darduraka is very poor, but he is a very valiant hero. So they are all heroes in themselves. Such wonderful world of heroes Shudraka creates here. So Darduraka says that a poor man is being mercilessly beaten. So he stands for his defense, and somehow he protects Samvahaka and fights very bravely with these. If there is time, I will cite his dialogues. Samvahaka runs, being chased by Mathuraka and the other gambler, and Samvahaka enters the house of Vasantsana and requests Vasantsana to provide him shelter. Vasantsana asks, where have you been working? What have you been doing? So Samvahaka tells her that I was a mature Samvahan Karma I was doing. I was a mature of Charudatta. Then Vasantsana is very much pleased. This person is connected to, he was a servant in the house of my lover, my beloved. So she says that I will do anything to protect you. And those persons chasing Samvahaka enter the house of Vasantsana. They want to get hold of him. Vasantsana pays them 10 gold coins to save Samvahaka. Samvahaka, seeing this scene, he becomes renunciated, and he said that now I will become a monk. I don't want to live this life, this dirty life. So this is second act, and in third act we have the scene of theft. Again darkness. Sharvilaka is a thief, but he is a great hero. Rasiklal Parekh has written a play Sharvilaka, because Sharvilaka is such a character that you can write a full-length play, independent play on his life. He plays a very crucial role in whole of the play. This Sharvilaka, he is a noble character otherwise, but he is entering this house to steal something, to steal some money, to save his beloved, to get back his beloved, who is the Dasi in the house of Vasantsana, the same Radhanika he loves. If he repays the fees for her, she will be released. So for release of Radhanika, he needs some money. So he is very poor, otherwise he is very bold and brave person. So by mistake he enters the house of Charudatta, thinking that it must be a house of wealthy person, so I can steal some money from here and get back my beloved to pay her fees. So he sees that there is nothing in the house, no property. Some veena is there and some mridanga is there. So he wonders whether it is a house of some Natyacharya, and he just to return. And Charudatta and Vidushaka, they are sleeping. They are in Pragada Nidra, you can say. and Vasantaka is seeing a dream. He is holding the jewelry box which Vasantsana had left in the first act. Vasantsana said that you keep this jewelry box in your custody because of my jewelry, the thieves are after me. The goons are after me. So I will leave my jewelry box as a custody here. And Vidushaka goes to Vidushaka accompanies her to her house in the end of first act. So that jewelry box Vidushaka is holding, because in the daytime Charudatta keeps it, and in the night time Charudatta said that you keep it because that has to be protected until it is returned. So Vidushaka in his dream scene, again it is also a dream scene, not like Swapna Drashya of Swapnavasavattam. So he is seeing a dream and he is afraid that somebody may get hold of this jewelry box. So he is telling, in his dream, he is telling his friend Charudatta to keep the jewelry box. And in the dream he hands over the jewelry box to Charudatta. And Sharvilaka, the thief, hearing him calling somebody and calling to accept the jewelry box, please take this jewelry box, and giving his oath also, please keep it. So Sharvilaka takes that jewelry box. He said that he has given me his oath. Shapatham te dadami yadi na swikarosi, something like that he says. And Sharvilaka, under that duress, he accepts that jewelry box and departs from there. After that, Act 3rd continues. There is morning. The theft has been discovered, and Vidushaka informs Charudatta, Maitreya informs Charudatta that theft has been committed. There is a hole, sandhi, in the wall, and Charudatta praises that sandhi. He is a man of artistic taste. So he says that whosoever was a thief, he was a great artist. He has made a very good size of hole to enter the house, sandhi. And the passage made by Sharvilaka is being praised. Vidushaka tells him that he has taken away the jewelry box of Vasantsana which was kept in your custody. Hearing that, Charudatta faints with grief. It is a great shock to him, because the nyasa he couldn't protect. As a man of character, he ought to have protected that nyasa. So he is lamenting Dhuta, the wife of Charudatta. She comes to know through the dasi that my husband is in a pathetic state because a theft has been committed and jewelry box of Vasantsana has been stolen. So she sends her Ratnavali, a very costly mala of gems, to be given as a compensation for that jewelry box. Vidushaka says that don't do that, because this Ratnavali, this garland of gems, is much more costly than all the jewelry of Vasantsana. Charudatta says that no. Yam samalambya vishwasam nyaso asmasu taya krita. She confided in us. She believed in us, Vasantsana, and she kept her jewelry box in our custody. So we cannot break her confidence in us. So for that we will give a costlier item. It may be even more costly than all the jewels of Vasantsana, but we have to give this. So he asks Vidushaka to take that jewelry, to take that garland and give it to Vasantsana. Act 4th, Vasantsana is looking at the painting of Charudatta. She is appreciating the beauty of Charudatta. She is talking to Madanika, the maid, the dasi. They are having a lively talk, and Sharvilaka enters the house. She calls his beloved Madanika and says that I have done this. I have stolen this jewelry box from the house of somebody, and you give it to your you give it to Vasantsana and your mistress, and you will be released in lieu of this jewelry as a nishkray, as a compensation to release you. So because you have been purchased as a slave and you have to be given the fees or compensation for your release. So this you can give to her and give to Vasantsana, and she will release you. So we will live happily. We will realize our love. Madanika asked him, why did you do this dussahasa? Why did you do this act of stealing for my sake? You shouldn't have done it. But where did you do this robbery or this theft? So Shudraka is reluctant to inform. But when Madanika insists, he says that in the morning somebody was telling that a theft has been committed in the house of Sarthva Charudatta. And maybe I entered the house of Sarthva Charudatta. So Madanika faints hearing that. She is shocked. And there is a long dialogue by Shudraka after that. He suspects that this lady with whom I am in love, she actually loves Charudatta. And he recites so many stanzas in declamation, denouncement of women. And Madanika tells him that my mistress, Vasantsana, loves Charudatta. And it is her jewelry box you have stolen. So now I can't give this jewelry box to her as a compensation for my release. So you go back and return it to Charudatta. Shudraka says that I cannot do that. I am ashamed to go to the house where I have done this heinous act. And I now know that he is a noble person, so I can't face him. I can't show my face to him. So Madanika has another way to solve this problem. She says that you become the messenger of Charudatta and say that my master Charudatta has given me this jewelry box to be returned to you. You had left it as a custody. So please accept this. This he says. Now what happens that Vasantsana has overheard all this dialogue between Madanika and her lover Shudraka. And when Madanika brings Shudraka as a fake messenger from Charudatta and introduces him in this way and says that he has come to return the jewelry box which has been left by you as custody with Charudatta, Vasantsana smilingly accepts the jewelry box and tells Shudraka that I have also a message for you. Your master Charudatta had sent me a message that somebody will come to return the jewelry box. So please hand over your dasi, your maid Madanika, to him, and he will take the dasi. So as per his message, I am handing over my dasi Madanika to you. Take her away. So Shudraka is surprised. Vasantsana is such a great character. And look her love and her generosity that she releases Madanika when she comes to know that they are very much in love with each other. So on the contrary, instead of accepting any compensation or nishkraya, any fees for the release, she gives the jewelry to Madanika and Shudraka and says that may you live happy life. So these are the great characters in Sanskrit drama. In continuance to fourth act, when they depart, Madanika departs with Shudraka. Vidushaka comes to return to deliver, to give the Ratnavali, the Ratnamala of his mistress of Dhuta to Vasantsana. And Vasantsana accepts the Ratnavali. Here there is a long description of Vasantsana's big mansion, the seven khandas, seven prakoshthas of her house, and a very lively description of the house of a courtesan. She is a very wealthy person, or her mother is a very wealthy person. So it is a prosperous, all prosperity is lying there, and very good lines are there when Vasantsana asks about Charudatta, Guna Pravalam, Vinaya Prashakam, Vishrama Moolam, Mahaniya Pushpam, the tree of Charudatta, how is he? She asks in Sanskrit. Vasantsana many times speaks in Sanskrit. She is a scholar given to poetry and artistic activities. She is adept in all sorts of arts. It is as it is described. A Ganika has to learn many arts, and she has to master many vidyas also, many kalas also. So this dialogue, very interesting dialogue between Vidushaka and Vasantsana proceeds. Mrichchaka is a little bit shocked that Vasantsana has accepted that Ratnamala. He expected that Vasantsana would return that Ratnamala, saying that it is much more costly, and okay, if that jewelry box has been lost. Charudatta says that don't tell that it has been stolen. She will be shocked. Tell her that I lost that jewelry box in gambling. So I am sending this Ratnamala in lieu of that. So Vasantsana accept the Ratnamala also. And Vidushaka, a little bit disappointed, departs from her house. Here, fourth act ends. In the fifth act, in continuance to the fourth act, it is such a chain, action after reaction after action, and incidents happening in a chain, that in fifth act, at the end of fourth act, Vasantsana has already ordered for her vehicle. That vehicle is to be brought at the gate. I am going to meet my lover, because she has now got another excuse to visit the house of Charudatta, to visit Charudatta. She will return the Ratnamala now. So she proceeds towards the house of Charudatta. The act fifth opens with the descriptions of rain. Long description, almost a Khandakavya, more than a half century of very beautiful verses in description of rainy season. And the Abhisarika Vasantsana, the lady going to meet her lover, proceeds in the rain to meet Charudatta. Charudatta from his house sees that there are rains. He also describes the rain. It is very beautiful poetry is there. And what happens, that when she reaches the house of Charudatta, they meet, they are united. And next day morning, Charudatta goes to Pushpakarandaka Udyan, the city gardens, and he has left a message for Vasantsana, who is still sleeping, that you come to the city garden, Pushpakarandaka Udyan, I will send a vehicle for you. When Vasantsana awakes, the Dasi, Radanika, tells her that my master has left a message for you, that a vehicle will be sent to you and you will be going to the city garden. You will have a pleasure there. You will have sports there, like picnic. So Vasantsana gets ready. A vehicle is being brought. Meanwhile, so many things are happening in the city. There is a ploy to dethrone the king. And one Aryaka, who was to be the king in place of this Palaka, the oppressor king. So he is caught and put in prison. And somehow he escapes from the prison. And he is being chased by king's persons and is running. And by chance he comes in this street where Charudatta's house is there. And he sees that there is a big house. The gate is open. He is about to enter the gate. At that juncture, the vehicle sent by Charudatta for Vasantsana arrives there, and seeing that it is a vehicle covered with a curtain, this Aryaka, who is a political activist in the city, who is working to dethrone the king, he enters inside the vehicle, the bullock cart it is actually, and sits there inside. And the driver of the vehicle, by the jingling of the chains, the Aryaka is tied with iron chains. So by the jingling sound of those chains, the driver thinks that Vasantsana has seated inside the vehicle. She doesn't want to open the curtain and have a look at the lady, and he simply drives the vehicle. So in this way, that vehicle, taking Aryaka, the political activist, in place of Vasantsana, moves towards the city garden. And when Vasantsana comes out, another vehicle which is going for Shakara, it stops there because of some traffic. So it suddenly stops by chance at the gate of Charudatta, at the gate of the house of Charudatta. Vasantsana, thinking that this is the vehicle sent by my lover Charudatta, she sits inside that vehicle. So this is a disaster. So all these things, how this Mukh Pratimukh Garv Sandhis proceed. So there is a great crisis now in the play, that Vasantsana reaches the place where the vehicle for Shakara goes, and Shakara is waiting for his vehicle, and Shakara gets hold of her, And Aryaka, in the vehicle of Charudatta, reaches the place where Charudatta is waiting for his beloved Vasantsana. So Charudatta and Aryaka see each other for the first time. They appreciate each other. Aryaka says that I was caught by the king. Charudatta says that I have all sympathy with you. So he gets him released from his chains and he sends him in his vehicle. Then he is worried that this vehicle was sent for Vasantsana. And Vasantsana didn't come. Instead of Vasantsana, this Aryaka has come. So he tells Vidushaka that better we should hurry for our house. Something wrong has happened. So he goes back to his house. Meanwhile, Vasantsana has arrived in the same garden in another vehicle by mistake, and Shakara gets hold of him. The wit is there, and one Das is also there. They are seeing Shakara doing all sorts of mischiefs to Vasantsana. Vasantsana is trying to save herself from his advances. It's a very powerful scene. Ultimately, Shakara succeeds in sending away Vita. He says that I will not do any harm to her. I will just make love to her. You go away. And he strangulates her. He kills her. Or he thinks that I have killed her. This scene is shown in Mrichchakatika. Okay, the dramatic dialogue is there. He is strangulating. Although according to Natya Shastra, no such scene is to be so shown. So then he leaves, covers the in his to him it is a dead body of Vasantsana. Vasantsana actually has not died. She is lying unconscious because she is strangulated and becomes unconscious. He covers her body with dry leaves and departs from the garden. In the next act, he makes a complaint in the court that Vasantsana has been murdered by Charudatta. But sixth act opens in the morning again, and Charudatta, you see, next is the seventh act, and it is very small act, and the meeting of Charudatta and Aryaka is described here. It is the seventh act actually, and in the eighth act, Samvahaka in the same garden enters in the attire of a monk. He has become a Buddhist monk, and he is going to the pond in the garden to have his morning ablutions. Shakara notices him, he threatens him. So all these scenes are there, the reign of terror that Shakara has unleashed in the city. He is always oppressing and threatening the people of the city. And Vita tries to stop Shakara, and all these things happen. Then he strangulates Vasantsana. So up to the eighth act, this plot proceeds. In the ninth act, Shakara goes to Adhikarana, the court of the city, and the city court is shown. This is the unique scene in Sanskrit drama, that the courtroom scene is shown like modern films, and the judge, who is called Adhikaranik, otherwise he is called in Dharmashastra, he is called Pradvivaka, but in Mrichchakatika he is called Adhikaranik, and the court Nyayalaya is called Adhikarana. So the judge is sitting there, Adhikarana is sitting there, they are making an announcement. Is there any Vadi? Is there any person for giving any petition or any complaint? So Shakara reaches, he says that I have to lodge a complaint. I have a petition to register. So he registers a complaint. He records. There is a person, Lekhak, Kayastha, to record the complaints and to prepare the documents. So all these implies are also there in the court, in the Adhikarana. And Shakara says that Charudatta, a Brahman in the city, has killed Vasantsana. So this is a great twist and turn of events, that things take so a nasty turn that the Adhikarana, the court, believes that Charudatta has actually killed Vasantsana. By chance it so happens. Although the judge knows that Charudatta is a great person, he is a very generous person, he is a saint, he is a saintly person. He won't do anything like that. But a person who had quarreled at the time of search of the vehicles, when the vehicles for Aryaka were being searched, and two Rajpurushas quarreled with each other, Chandanaka and Viraka. So Chandanaka saw that Aryaka is sitting in the vehicle, and he allowed that vehicle to go. Then Viraka, who is faithful to the king Palaka, he argued with him that why did you allow that vehicle to pass? We are searching all the vehicles because king's orders are that other orders are that we have to search all the vehicles. The Aryak has fled away. So Chandanaka defends Aryaka. He has sympathy with that political activist. So Viraka, beaten by him, reaches at the spot to lodge a complaint against Chandanaka that he didn't allow me to search the vehicle who might be carrying an opponent, a political opponent of the king. And he has beaten me also, I have to lodge a complaint. And Shakara takes this Viraka into confidence and makes him to give a testimony that he has seen the corpse of a lady lying in the garden. And that lady is Vasantsana, killed by Charudatta, murdered by Charudatta. At this critical juncture, Vidushaka also arrives. He was actually going to return the jewelry box of Vasantsana to her house. And he heard that Charudatta has been summoned in the court. So he reaches to the court with that jewelry box. So that jewelry box is also discovered in possession of the friend of Charudatta. Vasantsana's mother is called. She identifies the jewelry box. There is a person testifying that he has seen the dead body in the garden, and it is the dead body of Vasantsana. So the court, very unhappily, the judge is not happy, he is not actually believing, but the testimony is there. So he orders for the banishment of, he gives a recommendation for the banishment of Charudatta, because as per norms of Dharma Shastra, a Brahmin cannot be given death sentence. So he recommends the banishment of Charudatta from city. But the king, who is a very dishonest person, he is led by Shakara to pass an order for the death sentence for Charudatta. So death sentence is pronounced. Charudatta in next act 10th, is being taken on the streets of the city for being given the penalty of death by the Chandalas. The Chandalas used to do this business of business of hanging a person till his death. And as per the custom, he is colored in red sandal. The mark for the person who is given the death sentence are there, and on certain spots he has to declare that I am the person who has killed the Ganika Vasantsana as per the custom. So he's made to do that. This is a very pathetic scene. Charudatta saying what has happened to me. His son Rosena comes and comes to meet him. Vidushaka brings him. Charudatta says that this is my last meeting with my son. He hands over him his Yagyopavita. So it's a very pathetic scene. And Charudatta is being taken for the death sentence. Meanwhile, the Buddhist monk, who is actually Samvahaka, whom Vasantsana had saved, he comes to hear that Charudatta is being taken for death sentence. So he had kept Vasantsana in the Buddhist vihar with his sister. His sister was also living in Buddhist vihara. So he hurried to bring Vasantsana. He says that Charudatta is being put to death. So let us hurry up. So they reach at the spot where Charudatta is being taken for the death sentence. Samvahaka shouts that don't take him for the death. The lady for whose murder he has been found guilty is actually alive. So now things turn the other way round. Meanwhile, Aryaka, with the help of Sharvilaka, because Sharvilaka, after the release of Madanika, he had announced that I will now work for dethroning this oppressor king, this dishonest king, and I will work for my friend Aryaka. I will collect my friends. I will meet those who sympathize with Aryaka, the kings and the other Samantas. So Sharvilaka is a great organizer. He collects a sort of army and they kill Palaka. This happens when Vasantsana arrives on the scene of death sentence. So the culmination of the play, that Aryaka sends Shudraka as his commander. He is made commander now, and he says that you have to see that both Charudatta and Vasantsana, they are safe, because Charudatta the Brahman had saved my life. He has saved me from the persons who were chasing me. So Shudraka also reaches Dhuta, who is going to ascend the burning pyre when she comes to know that her husband is being taken for death sentence. She is also approached by Charudatta. She is also saved. So all this happy ending is there. In the end, Shudraka asks Charudatta, what else can be done for you? And Charudatta says that this Shakar is falling on my feet, so you forgive him. Don't give him any punishment. So this is in nutshell the plot of Mrichchakatika, a very complicated, so many incidences connected in a chain to each other. So incidents after incidents, and so beautifully linked together. So very logically linked together. A chain of small and big happenings, they all occur with a very well designed way. So this is the simple, in a simple way, in a nutshell, this is the story. One very wonderful scene we have forgotten. Before going to meet her lover Charudatta in the city garden, Vasantsana meets the small boy Rohsen of Charudatta. So she develops a kind of motherly love with the boy. This is very natural. He is the son of her beloved Charudatta. So she wants him to address her as mother. So Rohsena says, you cannot be my mother. If you are my mother, why are you so adorned? Why have you so many ornaments? And he is demanding for a golden cart. He is asked to play with a earthen cart, Mrichchakatika. Mrichchakatika means the cart of earth, mud, you can say, mitti ki gadi. So he's playing with that earthen cart. He wants a golden cart. So he's weeping or demanding a golden cart. So Vasantsana, after putting out all her ornaments, fills his earthen cart and says, now it is golden. Then she departs for this is also a very beautiful and touching scene. It is a central theme. The central theme of this play develops through this scene. Now, very briefly, we will discuss the poetic beauty and its theatric quality, dramatic qualities of the play. The Mrichchakatika presents a great, we can say, grand feast of rasas and bhavas. Bharat Muni says that all the rasas and bhavas should create a sammardha. A confluence of rasas and bhavas should be there in a maha nataka. A great play has the confluence of all rasas and bhavas. That is called rasa sammardha, rasa vyatikara also. Other acharyas say that this is samplava. So a great flow of rasas and bhavas is there. So the overflowing emotions and so many rasas, you see, Shrangara is of course there, Veera, Raudra, Bibhasa is also there, ultimately Shanta rasa is also there. And Karuna rasa, a very strong current of Karuna rasa, compassion, flows throughout the plot of Mrichchakatika. So all rasas and all the sancharis occur in the strong stream of this rasavyatikara, in this confluence, in this vast ocean of emotions and aesthetic experiences. Love is there, heroic sentiments are there, because people are fighting to save the kingdom from that oppressor king. And there are very intense moments between Charudatta and Vasantsana, moments of intense hatred, they are also there, moments of great enthusiasm through such characters like Shudraka, who fight very valiantly to save the state and to dethrone the king. So all these things are there. And we go to slide number 3. And Just to give an illustration very briefly, there are very touching stanzas from the mouth of Charudatta describing his very poor condition. In the play starts with the pathetic condition of Charudatta. He has become very poor. He has given away all his property in charity to help persons in need. So, and he has perhaps suffered a loss in his business also. We do not know how his business is going, what sort of business he is doing. He is not a good businessman, I think. So his business is running in loss. His forefathers might have been doing good business, and they had a large property also. A big house is there. The servants and slaves are there. But he has lost everything because he has given away most of his belongings in charity. And he laments that I have nothing to give now. I have nothing to, no money to help the others who come to me in need. So these very touching stanzas describing the poverty. This is a unique thing in Sanskrit drama. This is perhaps the only play which has so many stanzas describing the pathetic condition of a person who feels the pangs of suffering due to poverty. Yasam, this slide number 3. Yasam balir bhavati madgrah deha leenam hansaishya sarasa ganeshya vilupta purvah tasveva samprati viruda tranangkurasu. It should be tasveva samprati viruda tranangkurasu bijanjali patati kita mukhavalida. Very, very touching, pathetic condition he describes. He laments that this is my threshold. So upon this threshold, where the offering, where I used to place the offerings for worship, those offerings were eaten, were seized by swans and flocking cranes. Hansaishya sarasa ganeshya vilupta purva. They devoured the offerings placed on the threshold. This is the Mahayagya, one of the Panch Mahayagyas. So you have to leave Bhut Bali, you have to leave something to eat, to be eaten by the birds, by the animals. You have to give something to cows. So as per the dicta of Dharma Shastra, Charudatta is still doing all these activities. But now some small grains only are put instead of good food, instead of very tasty things in the offerings for birds to eat them. Even the swans and cranes come. Very small quantity just to maintain the ritual is put there. So now on this threshold, the grass has grown. Viruda tranangkurasu. And my bijanjali, a handful of grain, falls on them. And that is eaten by insects. Kita mukhavalida. Some insects come and take it, like ants, you can say. So we will not analyze these stanzas in detail. You can know the bhavas, sanchari bhava, chinta, glani, etc. Next is slide 4. Sukham hi dukkhan yanubhuya shobhate. This is oft quoted stanza. Very beautiful stanza and niti vakya also. Sukham hi dukkhan yanubhuya shobhate ghanandakare shviva deepa darshanam. Sukhat tuyo yati naro daridritam dratah sharirena mratasya jivati. So, sukhami dukkhani anubhuya shobhate, the joy that is experienced after the experience of sorrow becomes an ornament. A very, very touching thing. That if you have felt grief in your life, you can feel happiness. But on the contrary, after experiences the joys of life, if a person becomes impoverished, he is in straitened circumstances, then he is as good as a corpse. Tratah sharirena mratasya jivati. He is as good as dead. This is the feeling of Charudatta. He said, I cannot help people now. I have become a poor man. I have nothing in my house now. I had seen the days of happiness. I was a rich person. I have lost everything. So happiness is enjoyed after having experienced unhappiness, the sorrows of life. But if one experiences happiness, if one experiences unhappiness after happiness, then that is like a death. Slide number 5. A simple stanza to give the feeling of Charudatta. Daridnyad maranadva maranam rochite mena daridryam alpa klesham maranam daridryam anantakam dukkham. Very in a very simple language, he gives vents to his heart, of his heartfelt feelings between poverty and death. He says, I prefer death to poverty. Maranam rochite mena daridryam. Death gives just a passing suffering. Alpa klesham maranam. It is only a momentary suffering when you die. But poverty brings unending sorrow. Anantakam dukkham daridryam, he says. Etat tumam dahati, it is slide number 6. Etat tumam dahati, yad graham asmadiyam kshinartha mityatithaya parivarjayanti. It should be kshinartha mityatithaya parivarjayanti. Sansushka sandra madaleka miva bhramantah kalatyaye madhukarah karinah kapolam. Very beautiful simile. A real simile. A person who is a great poet would write such poetry. He says, Etattu mam dahati, it hurts me, it burns my heart, that guests avoid my house. Asmadiyam graham kshinartham, there is no property in this house. Therefore, parivarjayanti, they avoid my house. He is weeping not because he has become poor. He is weeping there because the needy people do not think of visiting his house. They just turn away seeing his house. Once they used to make a crowd on his gates and he used to distribute. Now nobody looks, nobody comes to his gates, they avoid his house. So thinking that it is a poor man's house, kshinartham iti, like the hovering bees who desert the elephant when the ichor or mada on his temples becomes dry, it stops flowing as the time passes. Kalatyaye. So this is a well-known fact that when an elephant reaches his youth, a substance flows, a drava flows from his temples. It is very fragrant, and the bees hover over it. They surround the elephant, but when he becomes old, they desert him. So I am like that elephant. The earth is like bees. They used to surround me. They used to hover here. But now nobody comes. Nobody looks at me. Slide number 7 also we will very briefly. Satyam na me vibhav nashakritasti chinta bhagya kramena hi dhanani bhavanti yanti. Yatattu mam dhati nashta dhanashrayasya yat saudadapi jana shithili bhavanti. He was a very social man, very lovable and a loving personality, Charudatta. And he is hurt by the fact that his friends are deserting him. So now they don't maintain those relations which they used to maintain. So I don't care for the loss of my wealth. Vibhav nasha krita chinta nasti. Because money comes and goes. Bhagya kramena hi dhanani bhavanti yanti. So wealth is earned and you lose wealth. So I will again earn this wealth. But the thing that hurts me is this. This burns my heart that having lost the property, the men have loosened their bonds of friendship with me. My friends have stopped the relationships with me. Now we come to the thematic design and the plot of the play. I think that the play has been developing like an epic developing epic, because so many stanzas are being added in Charudatta. So there are as many as stanzas on condemnation of prostitutes, and they are not actually required. Shudraka recites those stanzas in Act 4th when Madanika faints, learning that he has committed a theft in the house of Charudatta. She is so shocked. And Shudraka thinks that this really is a Ganika's servant, courtesan servant. She is also like that. She is loving Charudatta, and I wasted my heart on her. In vain I loved her. And he says many things denouncing the ladies and women So there are so many very good stanzas on denouncement of women here. So in this way, many readings are there which are later on edited. This is one thing. But very beautiful thing about and unique thing about Mrichchakatika is this, that a revolution happens here and participation of common men in it. Very ordinary people of the city, like the gamblers, the Shudraka, he is a great character. He says that you are killing a person only for 10 coins. That's a swarnasya karnat. Panchendriya smayukto manushyo vyapadyate toya. A living person, you are trying to kill him because of 10 gold coins. He challenges the gamblers. Otherwise, all his clothes are torn. They have fallen apart. He is in such a pathetic condition. But he fights to dethrone the king. He joins the army of Aryaka. So many such characters. The singer Rebhil, he is also with these persons, these revolutionaries. Shudraka is their hero, you see. So even Charudatta is a sympathizer. He sympathizes with the persons who are opposing the king, who are trying to fight with the king. Therefore, he is visiting the house of that Revilak, and that Revilak has connections with the persons who are uniting together to work for displacing the king. Because Shudraka goes to the house of Revilak to keep his beloved Madanika in custody there. So they are all connected. So many things are connected here, and various layers of the story are going together. So Vamana has described a Shlesh Guna, Karma Kautilya, Anulbanatva and Upapatti. These four are the characteristics of Shlesh Guna as a Artha Guna. So it is a Prabandha Guna. In the whole discourse, there is a Kram, there is an order, and there are twists and turns of events. Krama Kautilya and Anulbanatva, those complications are resolved. Then Upapatti, everything ends finally. So this Shlesh Guna, right from the beginning till end, manifest in the discourse in the plot of Charudatta. And Shudraka says that, like Yogandarayana, I am working for the release of Aryaka. I will work for the release of Aryaka, my friend, in prison. This he declares in 4th Act, 26th stanza. There is no time to cite all these beautiful stanzas. So a tension and a kind of dialectics in the whole plot of Mrichchakatika continues. And there is a conflict between Shakara and Charudatta, and this is a triangle of Shakara, Vasantsana and Charudatta. There is a conflict, there is a struggle for survival between Palaka and Shakara on one hand, between Aryaka, Shudraka, Rebhila, Shudraka, and so many dasas, so many persons from lower society, lower strata of the society, who join to make an army to fight against the king. So it is giving a subaltern discourse also, and it depicts in a very convincing way the dignity of a man, the dignity of common man especially. Very beautifully they are portrayed, these characters. Now there is no time to go through the dialogues. Durvarnosi vinashtosi dash sarnasya karnat panchendriya samayukto naro vyapadyate toya. This is what Shudraka says. So there are very beautiful juxtapositions between light and darkness throughout in the play. The juxtapositions of political intrigue, stark realities, and crudeness of life, with all the tenderness, with all the delicacy of feelings, with all the intensity of love. So they are all juxtaposed together in the very complicated structure of this drama with beautiful poetry. And there are so many stanzas describing the rainy season, as many as 52 seasons. We couldn't cover them. And there are very touching dramatic ironies. When Charudatta hears that some theft has been committed in his house, he is happy. You see, this is contradiction, inner contradiction. He said that, okay, a thief came and he has stolen something. I am satisfied that he didn't go empty-handed. And he is happy. Then Vidurshaka tells him that the jewelry box, which was in custody, that has been stolen. Then Charudatta faints out of shock. So these are so many situational irony. How the jewelry box plays a role, how the jewelry of Vasantsana plays a key role, right from the beginning, right from the first take till the last act when Charudatta is being taken for death sentence. So all this connectivity of incidents with the master design, this is there. And about the language of, we will cover some points. The commentator Prithvidhar is a scholar commentator of, there are so many commentaries, ancient commentaries on Mrichchakatika available. So Prithvidhar says that at least 7 prakrits are used in Mrichchakatika: Shorseni, Avantiki, Prachya, Magdi, Shakari, Chandali and Dhakki. Then he deciphers these layers of Prakrit language and which characters speak which Prakrit. So it's a very multi-layer dialogue structure linguistically also in Mrichchakatika. And the language of the dialogues, their phraseology, their idioms, so much difference is there in the dialogues of Vasantsana on one hand, Radanika and Madanika on one hand, and Shakara and these other characters on the other hand. It's a wonderful canvas of language, a wonderful range of language Mrichchakatika gives, and the great vocabulary. So many unknown words from the language of common persons, rare usages. So we will be winding up now. Very powerful idiomatic phrases are there. Ganika nama padukantara pravishta renuka dukhyana nirakriyate. This is what Shudraka telling Charudatta that he is walking on a wrong path. He should avoid Vasantsana. It will lead him to disaster because relationship with a Ganika is not for good. So Ganika is like a piece of sand having entered in your sandal, in your shoe. So it pinches. So like that, Ganika will pinch you and always make you unhappy. Leave it. Throw it away. He says, this is his language, you see. When Charudatta is a great connoisseur. So he's returning from the house of Rebila. Rebila is a great singer. And Charudatta is a lover of art. He is a Rasika, Sardaya. He appreciates anything beautiful. He is a lover of music. So there was a music recital in the house of Revilaka. And in the night they were visiting. And when Charudatta is returning on the roads of the city, he is walking with Vidushaka. He is full of memories of that melody which Rebila had sang. So he is describing the joy of hearing that music. And Vasantaka, see what foolish remarks suddenly he makes. And this difference between his language and Charudatta's language, you can see here. Mamatavat dvabhyam hasyam jayate. 2 things produce laughter in me. Striya sanskritam patantya manushyan cha kakalim gayata. When a lady, a woman tries to speak in Sanskrit, I laugh at that. That gives me a chance to laugh, occasion to laugh. And when a man tries to give a rendering in classical music, he renders Kakali Gayan. He gives a recital of Kakali. Istri tavat sanskritam patanti datta nava nasyev grashti adhikam susum shabdam karoti. A woman, when she starts speaking in Sanskrit, she makes the sound of soon again and again because she cannot pronounce the words properly, like the cow in whose nose a noose has been tied recently. They used to bind the cows by making a hole in their nose. So the cow the newly tied cow by that noose will make a sound through her nose. So that lady speaking in Sanskrit makes the noise like su at that time. And Manushopi Kakalim Gayan Shushka Sumano Dama Veshtito Vradha Purohita Eva Mantram Japan Mena Rochite. And a male artist singing Kakali, classical music, is I also do not like. He is like a priest reciting the mantras in a very dry way. So many rare words. The words and phrases from the language of the gamblers. So they are very rare over here. And because no other dramatist has picturized, visualized such a large canvas of society, such a large range of characters and characters from every section of the society. So the gamblers, the way they speak, katta, they call for the sound of the cowries when they are thrown on the chessboard, on the gambling board. This is the katta is the word used for that sound. Kalyavarta is the word used for a very small negligible thing. So Istri Kalyavartasya krate sahasa krata. Madanika tells Shudraka that for Istri Kalyavarta, for a small thing like a human, you have undertaken such a great risk. Patha is the word for stake, thou. Ganda is the promise to return the lost amount. So give me back my ganda, the gambler's tail, Samvahaka. Shwet kaki is a very beautiful black and white. So everything topsy turvy is going on in the state. So all this kind of language and the beautiful dialogues of Shudraka. He is a thief, but he is a artist in himself, and the way he makes the hole sandhi in the wall, the way he uses his yagyopavit, he is also a Brahmin. And ghana patala tamo nirud tara rajaniriyam janani umam samavranoti, such beautiful words. So there are slaves, they speak their own language, but this Shudraka is a Brahmin. By the turn of events, he is making this theft. Otherwise, he is a noble hero. So such beautiful description for the night. This night, like a mother enveloping me, because he is a thief. So night appears to him like a mother, because night will conceal him. The darkness of night will conceal him. So all this play of darkness and how to show darkness on the stage. If the play is being performed in the darkness, if the play is being performed in the light, an actor has to enact darkness. And there is a section in Natya Shastra how to perform darkness, because you can't put the stage in darkness. The audience will not be able to see if the stage is dark. But an actor is supposed to enact darkness. So that is the test of performance, how they will enact that they are walking in darkness. The skilled actors will do that. So most of the play is running in darkness and light, darkness and a dim light. And the theft is done in that way. So some very beautiful stanzas are there. They are well known. Limpati vatamongani varshati vanjanam nabha asat purusha seveva drashtir vipalatam gata. So the darkness is enveloping the body. The sky is showering collyrium, and the eyesight has failed, like the service of a ignoble person. Upma and Utpreksha. And now there is no time to discuss the subtle difference here between Upma and Utpreksha. The descriptions of darkness also, because the performance goes in darkness, so very lively descriptions of darkness throughout Mrichchakatika, they are there. Alok Vishala Sahasa Timira Pravesha Vicchinna. There was a slight light, so my eyes expanded. And again, I plunged into the darkness, so eyesight was cut suddenly. Unmilitapi drashtir nimilite vantakarena. My eyes are wide open. My sight is wide open, but darkness has just covered it. So all these descriptions are there. And now we will wind up. There is no time to cover the very beautiful descriptions of rainy season, but one stanza I will just read to give you a glimpse what a connoisseur Charudatta is, and what a great lover of music and art and poetry the author of Mrichchakatika is. So the rains are falling, and Charudatta sees that it is rain in the city. The waters are raining on the streets, and they are raining on the trees. So Talishu Taram Vitapeshu Mandram Shilashu Ruksham Salileshu Chandam. It is slide number 14. Talishu Taram Vitapeshu Mandram Shilashu Ruksham Salileshu Chandam Sangeeta Veena Ivatadyamanas Talalukarena Patanti Dhara. It is Indra Vajra Chand, but very rhythmic pattern. So Indra Vajra Chand has been made very delightful, you can say, very delicate, with a rhythmic tempo. So on the Tala trees, it drops with heavy noise. On the small branches, with very little sound. On the stones, with a harsh sound. And on ponds, on waters, it makes bigger noise. So in several scales, the several scales of music are being played by the showers of waters, by the showering of rains. So many descriptions of such phenomena are there. And in the end, Mrichchakatika can be read as a text of political intrigue, of social realities, and a very touching tale of love between Charudatta and Vasantsana also. And one angle of viewing it can be the female discourse, the glory of Vasantsana as a Ganika even. Ultimately, she attains the status of Kulavadhu. So Vasantsana, who is a Ganika, the king Aryaka, who now becomes the king in the end of the play, he orders that Vasantsana will not be a Ganika now, because a king only can order for the release of a lady from the status of Ganika, and he can order for her to attain the status of a Kulavadhu, because Ganikas are to register, and there is a office for the Ganikas. They have to pay the tax as a Ganika. So it's a recognized profession, it is recognized as a profession by the state. So only king can permit her to leave her profession. So Aryaka, he knows that they are loving each other. So he permits Vasantsana to leave the profession of Ganika and be a Kulavadhu. So in the end, what happens, that Shakara is being given the death sentence. Shudraka actually is asking Charudatta what sentence I should award to Shudraka. And he says, Charudatta says that I forgive him. Don't do him any sentence. Don't put him to death sentence or award him any sentence. Vasantsana at this time snatches away the Vadhyamala, the garland which is put on the neck of the person who is to be taken for death sentence. She snatches away that Vadhyamala and throws away on the chest of Shakara. This is a very symbolic gesture from Vasantsana. This reveals her character. There are no words. Only this gesture is there. Only this action is there. She makes her pronouncement that he tried to kill me. And who are you to forgive him? Who are you to release him? I was being murdered by him. So I should be asked. So this is a gesture from the lady, a very courageous lady. He gives Shakara the death sentence by snatching away the Vadhyamala from the neck of Charudatta and throwing that Vadhyamala on the neck of Shakara. This is the message. And this is the message of the play also. Here we take leave. Thank you very much.